And we're back. Game number 2 of our Western Challenge. Kickoff day here at the D2L for our Western Challenge, of course. I'm your host, Aaron A.C. Chambers, joined for Inside Analysis by, for the first time, but not for the last time. We'll have him on for the entire Western Challenge. Welcome in once again, Trouf. Trouf, game 1, well, it got out of hand in a hurry, and Empire really fighting uphill for the majority of that match. Never had a chance to get things back on track.
It really did, and as we're getting right into the bans and picks, I'm very curious to see if Team Empire with the second ban here bans out Ember, because EG is first pick right now, and I know that PPD, as if you want to check out his tweet today, what he had to say about it, it's got to be an Ember pick. Anyway, I had to derail on that topic. Yeah, snap Ember. Now, we saw it just get out of hand so fast last game with the draft that EG did, and they did it before too, so you can kind of expect it. Of course, there were some other little things like the haste rune on a Treant who hits for friggin' 90 damage and has the leech shade and yada yada yada. But I very, very much fear that we might have another kind of snowball thing just because of how confident RTZ is with Ember Spirit, and they get it right here in the first pick.
Yeah, as you said, I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. Arteezy very much one of those players. Same thing with Mason, really, even though he's not a mainstay in EG, at least not at the moment. But very much, one of those players who, when he gets on a hero he's confident with, the way he's able to play and just how aggressive he is, not just in terms of fighting and damage dealing, but even in farming, just allows him to build up such a huge lead on any sort of a small advantage. So Empire is no stranger to that play style. They certainly know how to build a lead of their own. They know how to play very aggressive styles. Game 1, they just never really had a chance to set their heels. I mean, when you start out 0-2 before the creep spawn, it's always kind of tough. But yeah, I mean, how much of Game 1 do you think really came down to just a flat-out outdraft?
I don't think it was necessarily an outdraft, to be honest. I would say that it was just more the coddle and the bat got caught out at the wrong place, the wrong time, and it really bit him in the ass in that exact instance. And you also wonder because if you remember watching, they were going back and forth between toggling the sleep off, and it ended up being 2 kills because I kept going back and forth. And you got to wonder if maybe they just let one of them die and the other person run away. It could have been a little bit easier to handle that lane. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was a complete outdraft. I just think things were really rough in the beginning, and I can't stress that enough. Sometimes things just go wrong in the laning phase, and there's nothing to really rectify that problem.
Empire following up their Bad Rider first pick with Mirana, Bat, a hero that, we saw him get nerfed and he kind of fell out for a while, but now he has really returned to popularity with pretty much every team on the scene in one form or fashion or another. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the way EG just tends to match up, especially in the absence of Fear, normally you would talk about how hard it is to make a stand-in fit in with what you're trying to do. You would worry about things like synergy and worry about things such as communication and all that. But really, I mean, Mason, he's made a case for himself too. I mean, obviously, you're not going to replace Fear on an Evil Geniuses squad, but I'm sure there's some squad out there looking ahead to TI, and especially with the finally the dates being set and the ticket information going out yesterday. I would imagine there's some squad who's maybe trying to fill a void that is going to be in Mason's ear once Fear is back and fully healthy and he's no longer needed on a day-to-day basis for EG.
Yeah, this is definitely high up on Mason's resume. We can say that much. And I will say, I said this before, and this is not to discount anything that Mason's done for the time being with EG, but I would say that if there is a spot like I was talking about last game to have a stand-in, I would say that it would be that carry role. It would be best for the team, just simply because I feel like the other 4 roles have to communicate a lot more. They have to kind of practice with one another to understand their movements and predict what one another is going to do. As a carry, you're kind of mostly doing your own thing, but take that with a grain of salt, because if you've seen all the matches that Mason's been playing, he's been very active. I've been seeing him play Podem and Puck like last game. He moves around a lot, so yeah, he's doing very well for them.
Evil Geniuses looking for their third pick. We see Empire does snag up the IO, and going back to the last LAN that I cast at South by Southwest, and tell you the truth, I haven't seen Empire run this hero a ton as of late. I mean, in terms of just matches I've had time to really sit and spectate and try to analyze and so on and so forth. But whenever I look at the way IO can be played now, based on the way we saw Cloud9 run the hero at South by Southwest. I mean, there are so many options available, but to tell you the truth, I was going to say you can do things like put it with the Luna and a lot of cute things you can do with it. Nope, just going to go with what's standard, going to go with what's worked since the International 2. How about IO plus Tiny?
Yeah, it's definitely a really strong combo. Maybe you can help me out too because I'm not entirely familiar with Empire's drafting style. I remember quite some time ago, Empire would draft Mag Clockwork all the time, and he just played. I just always remember that because his Clockwork was so impressive to me.
Yep.
Do they draft that much anymore? I mean, what's their kind of style right now? Do
Oh,
you know?
honestly, whenever it comes down to Empire, that's kind of what makes them unpredictable. Is they certainly have their set core of heroes that they do like to draft, but I mean, you saw what they prioritized in Game 1. Now you look at what they ban out, taking out the Dazzle, the Lycan themselves, and so on and so forth. I mean, they're just they're a very flexible, versatile group of players, and that's why they've had so much success. Is they're willing to throw out some curveballs here and there. They're willing to go. I use the word gimmick, but so often gimmick is viewed as a pejorative, and it's not necessarily that. It just there are certain lineups that when you look at what they're trying to do, they revolve around the one basic function, one basic combination, such as this with a Tiny and an IO. There's a certain play style with that, especially when you add in the gank ability of how effectively a Bad Rider and a Mirana work in a gank lineup as well. I mean, that's just the gimmick that they're building around. But they can do this. They can also fall back and play a push style, which is what they tried to do in Game 1. They just really never got things together. So they're pretty much all over the board, but in a very good way.
Okay, well, coming with the final two picks here for EG and Empire, it does seem like PPD's always kind of got a plan in the back of his head, but to be honest, I'm not 100% certain about this lineup. I'm really not sold on it just yet. The problem being is when you draft kind of like right now, it seems like Ember's just the only core. I mean, Darkseer could be maybe considered a core, but the problem when you draft Ember is that if he's the only one out in the front or your only kind of core, it's very, very easy to isolate him, especially when they have the Bat Rider. Maybe something like Lion here picked up last for Empire would be very, very good, as those lots of lockdowns. Ross would be good as well. So that's what I'm really worried with Evil Geniuses, and they're really gonna have to sell this last pick to me. It's got to be something I feel in your face, a little bit more tanky, something maybe. I know they like to draft Tide a lot, maybe a Tide. So we'll see. And I'm also just not certain on the Lich pickup, but again, like I said, PPD seems to have an idea when he comes in the matches. So
well, it's interesting that you mentioned Tide, and that's something again coming back to. So we saw a carry Tide at South by Southwest, and that can be very effective. It's just a matter of making sure you have the damage. Our big concern coming out of the draft in Game 1 was that EG was going to lack sustain, but in the end it didn't matter. They just got so far ahead, their ability to burst heroes, to turn fights around. RTZ got so far ahead that, and obviously the OD, with that last pick did give them quite a bit more sustain as well as more burst, so long as he got ahead, and he certainly was. But I feel like they're kind of in that same situation now, as you said. Ember is not a get-in-your-face and brawl-it-out kind of a guy. He is I'm going to bounce around, I'm going to make things happen. He's a mover and a shaker who can get out of control very quickly if you're not careful, but he's still not that big, tanky hero. And, taking a look at how EG is going to want to run this, I agree with you. I think you're dead on the money. They need someone who's going to be able to brawl, someone who's going to be able to take point and lead in a lot of these fights.
Yeah, Rubik is the last pick for Team Empire. I actually really like that. The lift is a great way to start off some kind of arrow or stun combination to really lock the Ember down. But of course, the Evil Geniuses has a Shadow Demon, so Disruption I think is the idea behind Peter's drafting the Shadow Demon, as there's lots of pings going out. But yeah, I really feel like something like Tide, maybe Centaur, something tanky and in your face like you were mentioning, would be the best idea here for Evil Geniuses.
Well, we're down to their last bit of bonus time. Empire, as you mentioned, rounding out their lineup with the Rubik. I like the Rubik pickup for all the reasons you mentioned. I like that there are a lot of abilities that are going to be worth stealing, especially if you're able to steal something big like a Lich ult. Lich ult early on can make a big, big difference. I do like the fact that the Lich, outside of giving them some earlier team fight and a little bit more magic damage before BKB start to come out, it does force a question of, is Tiny going to get a BKB? Bad Rider, yes, that's fairly typical for him and so on, but yeah, Lich is going to help them address the issue of getting in your face because of ice armor, frost armor. That's going to help out quite a bit in that department. They're also going to have pretty damn good lane control with a Darkseer who's a phenomenal laner no matter how you run him, be it solo or be it in conjunction with other supports. That is actually going to be a Storm Spirit. That's going to be Mason farming on that Storm Spirit. Now that's an interesting take. We were both talking about getting that big brawling type. Instead, they're just going to rely on their maneuverability. They're just going to try to outmaneuver Empire and make needing a brawler a complete non-starter.
Yeah, very interesting last pick there for EG. I really thought it was going to be something more a little bit more tanky, quite frankly. And I mean, Rubik is actually pretty good against Storm. You can steal the ult, you can lift him up and initiate him on that way. So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe just Evil Geniuses is very, very confident in their ability to farm out, or outfarm, I should say, Empire early on, get their core items, just kind of roll over them. I will say that Storm is pretty good against Wisp because, I mean, she has the ultimate, but it's very easy to maneuver around it. So.
EG once again leading off as 5, moving down this bottom lane. If you're just tuning in, this is Game 2 of our kickoff series, EG versus Empire in the D2L Western Challenge. EG jumping out with a Game 1 lead that was a match that was over just about as quickly as it began. They're going to look to repeat that success now as they move out. We'll see if Empire is going to once again make the same mistake and wander into the wrong part of the jungle.
Yeah, you got to assume that they're going to be a little bit more careful this time around, as that was really the tie turner. And it's sad to say there was a tie turner before the creeps even came out, but it really was. So, early warning coming out from EG. They have one to just kind of see out the area above the tier 1, and then one to block the camp as well. So, good start there for Evil Geniuses. And yeah, I'm actually curious too about how they're going to lane this Lich. That's the other thing I'm not quite sure about. Well, their entire laning phase really.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously Mason going to be going to farm on the Storm with Artesia mid. The movement of the supports, as you mentioned, is kind of a bit of a question mark. I would imagine this Lich is going to be fairly active, and one of the cool things you could do with the Lich in this situation is just maintain lane control. As we mentioned, we're going to have Universe who's going to do just fine on the off-lane Darkseer here, so no surprise there. But this Lich can actually bounce between lanes. He can go between top and bottom and lend assistance where needed, you know, and it doesn't matter what he needs. If you need a little bit of harass, come out throughout a blast. If you need a little bit of lane control, you just want to try to deny CS, that's fine. Just bounce down or stand in lane, stand towards the back, soak experience as you deny creeps with sacrifice. So, you know, he's you know, when you think about Lich for the most part, it's easy to get locked in. It's like, well, he has a basic skill set, he falls off when BKBs come out and all this. But he really gives you so much in the laning phase, it often doesn't matter. If he's going to give you a chance to really get ahead in a variety of ways. And in mid right now, it's actually going to be a 2-on-2, as we can see PPD hanging out with Artesia, and it will be Vanscore on the IO teaming up with Silent here in mid.
Yeah, and I really don't agree with how Silent's already playing this matchup. He used the level 1 Avalanche right at the start, and I don't even know if he got the CS from it. And in fact, I don't think he hit any heroes with it either. And it kind of seems like a small deal, but once you get up to like level 2 and 3 or 4, you're going to want all that mana to be able to combo. Because one of the Lich's kind of fallbacks early on is that he's still very, very squishy. And with the extra movement speed from IO, it could be very, very easy to combo. Like, oh, here's some action actually in mid already.
Yep, we saw the Searing Chains go off. Vanscore, nice Avalanche. That's enough. Nope. Whoa, he missed.
Oh.
Missed on it. And Vanscore very nearly first blood.
That's got to burn.
Oh, yeah.
That's got to burn.
But now what do? I mean, yes, you've got tangos if you're Silent, but you can't come forward again. There's enough mana for sure for Artesia to hit another Searing Change. You have no idea where the Lich is as he's playing back. Eventually, he's already level 2.5, so he's got 1 level into Blast already. We can actually see Universe. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's in a stack right now. I've seen him do this before, where he just kind of comes to mid, denies, and stacks a hard camp and what have you, and makes it very, very easy for Artesia and whatever hero he's playing to just get a fast item, whatever he's trying to build.
Very aggressive behind this tier 1, feeling very tanky already. I actually saw him get run out of lane early on, then salved up and got himself back in and has both of those heroes down quite low. In the meantime, here at top, we can see Zai making a ton of room for Mason up against that Bat Rider. And everything right now, it's certainly not quite as bad as it was when you look at the CS, you can tell. Definitely going the way of EG once again.
Yeah, and good job by Universe. Like, he's really being a nuisance to this.
Score. Caught again. Will Artesia? Nope, not going to try to dive it. PPD kind of got hung up there. And Artesia's in trouble now, and we're actually going to see PPD get the first blood on Vanscore as Silent eats a couple more auto attacks, but EG able to get the job done. And yeah, that was very nearly a first blood for Empire as Artesia was in a bit of trouble, but managed to get himself back to safety.
Yeah, and I don't know if he actually has his bottle already, Silent. I don't know if maybe he fairy reach into him or something like that. Yeah, he doesn't have a bottle yet, so this is going really rough for mid, actually.
Yeah, Vanscore, as you mentioned. Yeah, and you know, if you have an early bottle out, it's so easy to keep sustained in a lane like this if you have an IO. But up, another Searing Chains on the Silent. They're going to follow it up with the Blast. Artesia wisely opting not to go in that time. Had a Sleight of Fist. but opted not to spend it. So maintaining just a 1-0 lead, but their efficiency has got to be going through the roof. We can see Marana sitting at 14 CS, so at bottom, at the very least, they're keeping Universe largely off the CS board, but still sitting at level 3.5. Not too bad in that situation either.
Yeah, Bat's not doing too bad either in the top lane, but some more action in mid, just constant harassing me out from Arteezy. But the difference is he's got his bottle and he's bottle crowing, whereas Silent's not, and it makes a huge difference too. And also the levels are really lacking on Vanscore playing the Wisp. It's not the hugest deal in the world because you are a Wisp, but yeah, Lich is just such a good laner in the mid lane especially. It's my favorite place to put Lich.
And as you mentioned, doing his job in the jungle, stacking and so on. Going to be a lot of creeps for whoever needs them, most likely Arteezy.
Yeah, look at that. All those, that's a double stack right there. That's a triple stack in the hard camp. He's going to have a field day once he starts getting some more points up into whatever it is he decides to build. I'm actually kind of curious as to what he does every single game. I feel like he changes it up just a little bit, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Maybe you know.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, there's always some flex in there. But, yeah, I'm like you. It's like in this matchup in particular, whenever you know, and, you know, it's interesting the way Empire decided to draft against this. I mean, you have a Marana with Moonlight Shadow. She's going to be able to set up gank attempts. You've got excellent gankers in IO plus Tiny as well as the Bat. You know, this is going to be a game where, without a doubt, Empire, once the laning phase breaks down, is going to want to always be setting the tone and always be leading with the initiation advantage. And the way EG is going to opt to deal with that is of big interest to me. I mean, whenever you have a Storm Spirit out, obviously you want to accomplish the same thing. I just feel like they're going to have a little bit of a harder time with it than Empire is going to.
Yeah, well, Always Wanna Fly is kind of doing a similar thing. He's stacking up the jungle for Bat, but Bat hasn't left just yet. He's got his Tranquils, but not that much gold, so we're looking at maybe, if he goes to the stacks, maybe around a 10, 11-minute Blink Dagger, and I feel like him or Vanscore, or sorry, not Vanscore, but the Rubik needs to make some kind of play here. Actually, there's a Zai coming up here in mid, looking for disruption.
Looking for some target. 3 here from Empire, though. Could potentially be a 3-on-3 clash here in this mid lane. Silent continuing to keep his nose out. Here we go. Oh, Zai's actually going to be lifted before he can disrupt. He does disrupt himself. PPD's there along with Arteezy. Arteezy with the Searing Chains going off, and Silent in some trouble. Can they get him? Nope. Auto attack's not enough. Zai, though, will be picked off as the spirits from Io, enough to bring him down. Now, maybe overextending a bit. Arteezy has Searing Chains, gets it off. Is there a follow-up? PPD there with the blast. Will fall back, but Always Wanna Fly, leading with the chest and making some room for his buddy to escape. So Empire makes it onto the board. We're all knotted up. At top, we're going to see Mag drop to Mason, however. And, you know, this is just what Mason does. He quietly sits in a place and quietly makes plays. I mean, at one point he was 8-0 in Game 1. Already now off to a great start here in Game 2.
Yeah, he's got the levels on the Bat, too. So that's what I was saying, too. Is they're just confident enough that they can get the levels in early farm faster than Empire, that they can just kind of snowball and run at them. Like, Storm is quite mobile. Again, not the tankiest hero in the world, but when he has a start like this, it's going to pay dividends in about 5 or 6 minutes or so.
PPD continuing to hang around here. He's just short of level 5. Level 6 now for Arteezy, and is going to decide to go in. There's a Searing Chain. Silent's going to toss him back. Zai's there to help out. This is a sure kill. And they get him for free. Vanscore was there, but not in time. He's going to do a little bit of spirit damage, and Arteezy has to be a little careful here, but Mag unable to catch him, and certainly a ways to go until his Blink Dagger is up. Now able to bottle himself back together. Now, Vanscore's going to be careful. I mean, at this point, even the Tiny is feeling very squishy. 0-1-1 for him, and in terms of CS, he has been just bullied around. Only 11 CS out of this middle lane, even though he had an IO helping him out.
Yeah, but the thing is, this lane isn't that great against any kind of Lich plus whatever lane, which is what they have, and Arteezy just knows the limits of this hero, like in and out. So he knows how much damage he can get away with. He knows how much hit points he can give up and still get away. So and then you put a Lich on top of that, who's now he's got to be close to level 6. Yeah, he's almost 5 1/4. So it's really not the best lane in the world, the Wisp Tiny, until you get some levels or you get a good kill early on. But they didn't get that, so.
Universe taking some of the stacks here out of the jungle and splitting some of the XP with Zai here in mid. Potential for something to happen, as Always Wanna Fly is once again hooked up with Silent and Vanscore. He will go ahead and back out. Mags there, though, is getting closer to his Blink Dagger, only about 600 gold away. We've yet to see much out of Resolution. He will be getting himself an Aquila to get things going. Already has up his phase boots and his bottle, but EG with a 3-0 lead. I feel like they're poised to make a move soon, and it's actually going to be Arteezy that gets that double damage rune, and now Resolution, though, doing nice damage back. Unfortunately, the DD just way too much to overcome. Vanscore was there, and he might get tracked down as well. The Spirit's doing some damage. The creeps actually get him. So of all the results, they're not optimum, but certainly better than the alternative.
Yeah, this is not the best start here for Empire, and I really feel like it's going to kind of bite him in the ass in about 10 minutes or so, because the Ember still hasn't really shown what he's capable of. I mean, we're all aware of it. And you got to wonder if they had a plan in mind when they let them get that. Oh, here's a toss onto Arteezy. Actually uses the ult to get away. He's going to be fine on top of the searing chains.
Oh, Universe.
Mag does go down.
Vacuuming back Silent there with the Ion Shell. Arrow will connect on Arteezy, so a little bit of greed biting him in the butt that time. PPD and Universe not in the best of fighting shape either as Resolution. In the right place at the right time, lands a good arrow. And, yeah, if there's one knock you can say against you can have against Arteezy as a player, every time I cast him, it seems like there's at least one play a game like that where his eyes get real big, and you can just sense it. His eyes get big, he wants the kill, then he runs uphill and goes, nope, too many people, but by then it's already a little too late.
Yeah, and then he says, we lost boys to himself and his team.
Yep, we lost boys.
But yeah, really good start for EG once again, but very, very early on, still anything can happen at this point.
Mason,
once Wiz Tiny gets going, once they get going, do they have the blink on? No, okay, about 500 gold or so for the blink on Mag, and he's really going to have to be the playmaker here. I mean, Storm, we haven't even talked really about Storm other than that one kill that she had up top, and that's going to be a big problem for Empire, I feel. More so than Arteezy.
And, you know, it was interesting what we saw, by the way, and we didn't even talk about the possibility of it, and it's not really going to be that relevant for too much longer because the Blink Dagger's not far, but the toss into Lasso is a nice option right now. However, Arteezy catches two, grouped up together. Silent once again drops, as does Vanscore. And at this point, Silent must just feel like Arteezy's got radar for him. Everywhere he goes, Arteezy's waiting to bully him around, shove him around. And Zai moving into the jungle now. We'll get eyes on Mag trying to steal some of the creeps. Actually steals one of the big creeps, and Arteezy gets the other. Mag going to be caught with the searing chains. This is going to slow that Blink Dagger down even more, as he was only about 50 gold away from completing it. And they get a pick off in the jungle. Everything just once again going wrong for this Empire squad.
Yeah, and click on Zai. And what level is he? This is insane. Like, when he just uses ultimate right there. Oh, arrow coming out and it hits him. Zai gets hit by the arrow. This should be a kill for Empire at least. There's the lift actually on a Mason, but he should be fine. So, yeah, Moonlight Shadow as well. But, yeah, Zai, despite that death, he's level 8.
Oh, yeah. And like you said, the support play out of EG, I mean, if you've been watching this team since they formed under with this composition, you know that their support play has really been through the roof, and that's what has defined them largely as a team, that and the leadership of Fear. And, you know, Fear's certainly not a bad carry player whenever he's healthy. But this is just another example of it. I mean, whenever their supports get this far ahead, and, you know, this goes all the way back for as long as I've been casting Dota. I mean, one of the most basic observations you can make is, for the most part, more wins are you're going to win more games based on support play than you are carry play. Nine times out of 10.
With that, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, they're the ones that really kind of jumpstart the game. They're the ones looking for the movement, looking for the plays, and it seems just like Zion and PPD have a really good idea about what needs to be done. And I think the biggest thing is PPD has an idea about what he wants to do throughout the game. I've actually played with him for a long time, and even played with him and Zai in a team when we first came over to Dota 2. So I know what he's like, and I know he likes to really think far ahead about what he wants to do. So, I mean, his draft might not be set in stone, but he has a good, clear idea about how he wants to approach each game.
Oh, yeah, very cerebral. In Austin, I had a chance to sit down and spend a lot of time with those guys, especially after their win. And Resolution taking a bit of damage, shoots out an arrow, well dodged by EG. And there's going to be Zai. Zai actually was winding up for the disruption and was lifted. We'll get it off at the edge of the hill. Here comes Universe to try and help out. Ion Shell's there. Damage output still not quite high enough as he manages to scurry under his own tier 1. Nice attempt at the vacuum by Universe there.
The images were kind of blocking PPD right there. He couldn't get in range to use the Nova, so a little small misplay by Zai, but they're still in a fine shape.
Well, we're at just about 13 minutes in now, and we have taken a look at the gold graph for a time or two. About 5,000 gold advantage for EG, actually a little bit above that, inching up closer to 7,500 now. The experience is in that range as well. Once again, the question is going to be, what's the plan now for Empire? Certainly feel like they have a better chance to turn this one around than in Game 1, but still, already that hole's beginning to feel a little bit deep.
Well, they finally got the blink on the bat, so that's kind of their first go here and looking to try to make something happen. And my question is just, do they have enough damage to take someone down with SD sitting behind them, with a mech up on the universe? So I think that's the biggest thing. And I like Rubik. I think he's very good for these heroes, but I really feel like Lion would have been just a little bit better to have that finger out to burst someone before those defensive spells coming out from EG.
Down at bottom, we can see some action. Silent barely able to make it away. Mason's going to go for it, though. Unable to finish him off. Always Want to Fly is there. They do manage to pick off Vanscore. Another TP coming in as RTZ joins the fight. Silent making a run for it. Mason on his tail. Will not be able to catch it behind that. We're actually going to see Always Want to Fly spending his ball lightning that was stolen from Mason to get away. Mag got the lasso off, but they were unable to convert it to much of anything as EG, once again for the second game in a row, is reaching that point very early on where they just feel too tanky to bring down. Resolution will leap to safety as Zai was there and ready to try and follow it up. And Vanscore, or Always Want to Fly rather, having some fun with his new toy, just using it whenever he can.
Yeah, that could have been a much worse situation for Empire, so well played by them. This might result in a tower push here for EGs. Yeah, this is definitely going down. So Zai's actually making images of himself. Not really necessary, but oh, I was going to say too, the Dark Seer combination with the Ember Spirit is very, very strong. We've seen him actually not use the Ion Shield just on him, but he hasn't been selective about it. He's been using it on even the Shadow Demon sometimes. It's just whoever's in range. So
yeah,
the teamwork of EG has been pretty good so far in both games. But yeah, like I said, still very early on. I mean, if Tiny and just one big team fight for Empire, Tiny and Wisp can get out of control. But really, Tiny's farm is kind of lacking right now. So they have to play pretty nice. Yeah.
Kind of lacking is putting it kindly. He's sitting at less. He's sitting at basically 400 overall net worth over top of the Shadow Demon. So Zai at this point is one bracer away from having the same amount of farm as the Tinies. So at 15 minutes in, and with Arteezy and once again Universe on the Darkseer, and Mason once again just continues to do so well. I mean, when you look at what he does, yeah, he's balled in, yeah, he's been involved in a few fights. Hasn't I haven't exactly been yelling his name or anything, but very quietly sitting at 100 CS now, short of 16 minutes, and very quietly at 2-0 and atop our net worth chart. And it looks like he's going to hook up with his team and look to add to that now.
Yeah, they're looking for a smoke, and you really need to make sure, too, that, like, yeah, he's in the safe lane, but it was a dual lane, and there are certain instances where a hero like a Bat can actually take over that lane and still kind of fight off a short lane carry like that. Oh, here we go. Smoke's breaking. And
Zai going to be lifted. There's Mag going to get PPD. The Zai's in trouble. Up atop, Mason's going to be locked down immediately. This is a great fight for Empire. PPD gets off the ulti before he drops. Immediately, the Moonlight Shadow is there to disjoint it. Only RTZ really up to still do damage. Zai somehow survived, but not for long, and more damage done with Sleight of Fist. However, the follow-up a little slow. Good wall, though, cuts off one escape route, and the Avalanche barely caught him. Looked like it wasn't going to. Vanscore makes it away with less than 10 HP, and there's going to be the searing chains onto Tiny to lock it down, and one more Sleight of Fist from Arteezy gets him the kill. He's not done yet. He's got Sleight of Fist and chains now going on Mag, uses the ultimate just to secure things, and yeah, that'll be that. So what looked like was going to be a big fight for Empire to turn things around becomes another feeding fest now for Arteezy.
Yeah, I got to give a wag on my I got to say that I don't really agree with Silent's decision to come back in there. He was fine with Wisp, and he actually ran back in to try to make something. He tossed a creep to like a 40% HP. I think it was Ember. It was whoever it was. It just was not going to kill him at all, not even close. And it totally resulted in the death of him and the Wisp. And they died from a Sleight of Fist in the middle of the IOTP. And I was actually really questioning Arteezy's initiation right there. He used the triple remnant, but didn't hit like anybody at the beginning. And that's what I think kind of really made it look like Empire was going to take that. But yeah, just a kind of a sloppy decision at the end there from Silent, I feel resulted in 2 extra deaths that didn't need to happen.
Just short of 18 minutes resolution. Eyes on PPD, but doesn't look like PPD's too worried about it. Has help on the way. There's actually going to be a double damage rune that's going to be picked up and bottled by Arteezy. So suddenly a lot more threatening up at top, a little bit more movement. And Arteezy jumping all the way up there, ready to go to work, and yep, Silent's in trouble. He's going to toss him away. Can he catch him? Here comes Mason, going to get the Vortex off on Vanscore. Avalanche just joints things a little bit. Mason is feeling a little squishy, but I don't know that it matters as Arteezy ready to jump ahead. Another good sleight of fist into Searing Chains. Toss is there, but Silent most likely, most definitely going to die once again. And this has been a tale of woe for Silent all throughout this game. Mid lane, bullied around, pushed around, got nothing done. Since then, has not fared much better. 2 and 4 on Tiny, short of 20 minutes in. And now with Mason getting up his Orchid, this might be approaching the point of no return again.
Yeah, the Spirits seem to be owning this game. I was going to mention one more thing about Silent, what he did, but I was going to say that, yeah, I might have harped on it a little bit right there. It's very easy to sit, actually some action bottom as he pops an Invis. He leaps away. He's going to use his ultimate now to break that. There comes multiple centuries, and he will go down, so EG's on the ball with that one.
EG is playing about as good a game of Dota as I've seen them play in a while, to be honest.
Yeah.
They're just on point, man, and yeah, I know it's a little waste of gold to drop 2 sentries like that, but better to drop 2 than none. Yeah.
Yeah, not a big deal at all, but yeah, I don't know, they're just playing so well. Here goes Mason, he's trying to fool around with them. Yeah, but this really seems to be a game of the Spirits, man. I mean, they're just, for lack of better words, they're going ham. They're going ham.
No doubt about it. I mean, you take a look at the kill board. I mean, hell, everyone on EG is kind of going ham. Whenever your 5 support is sitting at 3 and 4 and level 10 at this stage with most of a 4 staff already done. I mean, it pretty much just great across the board. We can see that Arteezy has picked up his Claymore, so he's in great shape item development-wise. Universe already with a mech, Blink Dagger up once again, could begin work on another Scepter if that's the direction he wants to go. Even PPD, who is actually the lowest in terms of level and overall net worth on the board for EG, is in absolutely great shape. At least I think he's the lowest. Yeah, he is.
Mm-hmm. An arrow coming bottom, but to no avail. And Mason, like I said, he's gotten to this point right now where he's just got so much mana under his belt that it's going to be almost impossible to kill him. The only way really is like an initiation from Bat, or if Rubik gets his ball lightning again, which is pretty difficult to do actually, especially at this point. So, yeah, you really have to go back and think about how they laned it, and they needed to think about it before they actually laned it. Like, what is EG going to do? And if you really think about it, if they're going to lich dual lane mid, like how can you overcome that? Because what they did just simply didn't work. They needed to move around the Rubik in there, try to gank them that way. Oh, here we go in mid.
And in mid, another lasso. But only the Shadow Demon, unfortunately for them. And, not to take away from it. I mean, a kill's a kill, especially at this stage. But then this happens. Vacuum brings them back. Mason trying to engage Universe. Right there with him, and Mag. Basically, and it just feels like that's what they're constantly doing. Arteezy's actually going to find himself a kill on Van's score in the meantime as well. Looks like that happened right near the steps near top lane. And, yep, make it 2.
Yeah.
As he adds a second kill to his total, and Tiny drops once again.
He doesn't even have his Battle Fury yet. He's got it right now, actually. And this is just going to get so much worse for them. What happened, actually, was Wisp ported them back after it finished right into Arteezy. And he's like, oh, hey, free kills. And yeah, this is EG's just playing very, very good, and I feel like a lot of it too is I feel like Empire is just more capable of a little bit better play than this. I haven't seen much of them, but I did watch the game that they just played against Rock's Kiss, and they were banging on all cylinders. And I feel like they're just kind of not doing that this series. I don't know.
Well, they were on fire for a while.
Yeah.
And they just have kind of fallen off a bit. I mean, whenever you look at their recent results across a number of formats and tournaments and what have you, I mean, it's not to say they're playing terrible or like they're gone or anything, but that period of dominance they had did kind of slowly come to an end. And as of right now, I agree with you. This is not the Empire team everyone got accustomed to seeing dominate. They're going to grab Zai, but the immediate reaction from Arteezy is going to follow it up, go to work on Mag. They do manage to get Zai. In the meantime, here comes Mason. Nope, that's actually the ultimate that will manage to track him down. Mason nowhere near the fight, at least for now, so Empire able to make it a 2-for-1 exchange. They do lose Mag, but Universe is there with the vacuum into the wall, and they're going to get Always Want to Fly PPD right behind him. Already spent the ulti, as we saw. And the Moonlight Shadow used to cover their escape. And thought Mason was going to end up coming into the back of that fight, but unfortunately unable to get in a range in time.
Yeah, it's not over just yet. He's kind of caught out here by Resolution, blocking him out just a little bit. Ulti's on cooldown. There's the stun there coming out from Tiny. And they managed to get a 3-for-2 exchange, which honestly at this point is very, very good for them. They need something. But yeah, it's still an uphill battle, for sure.
It's actually going to be a Shivas for Universe, and already pretty much Dunskies with it. As Yeah, he's still got. He's actually. I thought he had the Mystic Staff in the stash. He doesn't quite yet. He actually went ahead and bought the recipe. Does he have it on the courier? He does not. So, throw not carrying that, but still on his way to Ashivas. Great item as we talked about in game 1. 11-21, and this feels like a much longer game. It has been very active. 32 kills in a 23-minute game, but pretty much all of the action for the second game in a row favoring the Evil Geniuses squad as they've built themselves up to 5 digits in terms of lead once again.
Yeah, and I kind of question this Podem pickup too. It's Marana. I don't really know how she fits entirely with it. The idea, I think, on paper is just the lift or the battle ulti on top of the arrow, but it's just not happening too much right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way
it just doesn't feel like it. It just doesn't feel like it fits to me. I don't know. Obviously, the bigger problem was the dual lane mid, but it just doesn't feel like it fits to me with this Marana pick.
Well, the way they ended up running it too. I mean, Resolution. Certainly an excellent player, but they were a little swapped in where their usual roles happen to be. And hang on, we're actually going to see Always Want to Fly caught out, and the lasso to follow up on Arteezy into the arrow. He will be stunned for a little while. Mason, in the meantime, jumped in, has to jump back out. Great counter initiation out of Empire, as they're going to be able to turn this fight completely around. They may end up tracking down Silent. They've managed to bring down a few, but yeah, I thought they were going to turn that around. Unfortunately, simply not the case, as EG able to bounce back from that. And really, it looked like it was going to be a great counter initiation out of Empire, but you blink for a second and 5 are down while EG's only lost 2.
That's some amazing clicking power there coming out from Zai. I don't know if you saw, but Mason's just zipping back and forth, back and forth. I can't believe he lived in the middle of all that crap. Zai was still able to get the disruption off on him at the perfect time. So, yeah, I mean, EG is just looking very impressive this series, man.
Well, I mean, they're doubling up Empire now. And we talked about the goal. We talked about everything else. Roshan's still standing, at least temporarily and for the moment. But, I mean, when you look at Empire and where things went wrong, I mean, Tiny, again, is...
It's the mid. It was the mid matchup.
Yeah.
For sure. And even with the bottom matchup where they had Podem free farming, like you said, Darkseer had so much... he was just such a nuisance to Podem that he actually missed a lot of... Or she missed a lot of creep kills down there, so... It was both of those lanes, honestly. I thought Mag did fine top. He didn't really rotate to the jungle as fast. I think he could have with the stacks coming out from Rubik, but yeah, I feel like the bigger 2 lanes that had problems were mid and bottom, and that's huge. I mean, if you lose 2 lanes with 2 heroes there, it's kind of bad.
I mean, just to put it in perspective, Arteezy, at this stage of the game, 25 minutes in, is sitting just south of 12,000 overall net worth. Tiny has barely cracked 6,500, so that tells you exactly how poorly then ended up going. And then you factor in Io, who's got 3,100 arrows shot and dodged by EG. But even PPD, 2,900 to the 3,100. So, I mean, yes, the Io in a little bit of better situation farm-wise, but honestly, PPD hasn't needed to do much. He's just been where he needed to be. I mean, he has his urn up, has up his bracer, a little bit tanky, has the tranks up, and just his innate skill set means he doesn't really need to worry about item progression. Just be there in the right place at the right time, call the shots, and keep this map on lockdown.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the Lich hero is concerned, I feel like any item he buys is luxury. Like, you go in there, you cast your ultimate, you throw some frost armor or ice armor on people, you've pretty much done your job. I mean, that's basically what entails a Lich. So anything on top of that, I would say even Urn is a luxury item. So, yeah.
And Resolution finally beginning to inch his way towards a Manta style, his first real big item. Not far from, in fact, should have it pretty much right this second. But again, you look across the board, and even Mason now, with his perseverance up as well as a point booster. I mean, we've seen him, he's still atop the net worth. He's sitting at 5-1. It's hard to believe he's sitting at 5-1. Even as I flicked to check out his KD, it felt like he should have died a few more times because he's been so damn close to dying so many times. But guy he just does work. He's a lunch pail, blue collar kind of guy. Just shows up and digs the ditches,
Yeah. And this is actually a really good BKB game for him, but he really doesn't need it. He's just getting lots of mana. And he's had so much team support that he just doesn't really need the BKB. So he's going for something else like the Bloodstone to give him a lot more mana, more HP, and obviously the lower respawn timer as well. So he's having a great game so far.
Resolution with an invis, poking his nose around. He's in very unfriendly territory as EG had 4 in the vicinity, now kind of splitting up a little bit to just go farm, PPD. Gonna go keep sacrificing creeps because hey, why
No
not?
bottom.
Down at bottom in the jungle, Mason's going to find himself a solo kill, and that's actually going to be on Mag as they manage to grab him out in the jungle all by his lonesome. And that's going to be Mason's Bloodstone now done. And in the meantime, looks like, yeah, a kill taking place on Zai up at top. So all over the place things happening. We're going to have Vanscore spotted out by Mason back down here in the Radiant jungle. He will be able to hook back up with Always Want to Fly and the rest of his team to keep things safe. But Lich, in the meantime, happy to go ahead and take away that bottom tier 1 as the rest of EG just kind of waits and resets.
Mason's flirting with death here, though. He gets lifted. Yeah, he's flirting with death. He might actually go down here till they don't have the damage. It doesn't seem to do any damage to him. As he zips away, he'll be fine.
Vacuum into the Shivas. There's going to be a wall that goes down. Mason still somehow keeps himself alive. Actually missed out on the mech there, so it's going to be just Universe going to work for now. And he'll be forced to fall back. PPD does show up, gets down the sentry in the meantime. But nice play from Universe. But like you said, flirting with death is probably the best way to put it. He was just kind of playing, we were talking about how blue collar he is. He was going for style points that time.
I really feel like he should have died there, but that just attributes to the rest of the lineup that EG has. I mean, they're so supportive of one another. The mech, the disruption, and it seems like to be a trend here for PPD in drafting these kinds of heroes. They might not be the same, but they kind of fulfill the same roles, you know?
Mm-hmm. Second Battle Fury. Now done on Arteezy. And, this is what it comes down to when we talk about support play. We had that brief conversation about how you'll win more games with good supports than you will with good carries. And this is why. Hang on, Zai. 4 staffs under his tower, but is still lassoed right into an arrow. And here comes Arteezy looking to follow it up. Will jump straight out. And good amount of damage. Mag slowed down and brought down. Mason going to re-engage as well. And Vanscore dies at the top of the ridge there in mid. And another double kill going the way of Arteezy. He's now 11-2, and he's challenging Mason for the crown of overall net worth, but looks like he's ready to challenge Roshan now as EG ready to put the final nail in the coffin as we pass 30 minutes in.
Yeah, and I mean, you can scream OP, OP for Ember all you want, and I do feel like he's a bit stronger than he should be right now, and I think the biggest thing is the range that he has with his Sleight of Fist Searing Chains combo is just way too far. It's way too far, and Arteezy knows exactly where it is. So he's able to catch out people that might seem like they're scot-free, but definitely not once you know what you're doing. So, yeah, he's playing this hero to a T, and he plays a lot. I know you probably watch his stream, and people tuning in to watch him, and he's really perfected this hero.
Surged in and was going headhunting through the jungle, but this is where things get problematic, especially once you have an Aegis and you kind of have a free gimme. You can just play ultra aggressive, and whether or not you manage to take a tier 2 or not, it's almost irrelevant. Just the threat of taking away the jungle of your opponent with the tier 2 bottom missing already, especially, you can just strangle them out and just take a pure farm lead. Doesn't help whenever never mind. Mason actually caught out. Let's see if they can reinitiate. Vanscore going to eat the ultimate. Beautiful vacuum into the wall from Universe. Silent forced the retreat to the high ground, but not going to get far as Arteezy's on his tail. And what do you do? I mean, you didn't even get the Aegis. You didn't even get Zai.
The EG designated team feeder right now.
Exactly. Yeah, whenever your team feeder is still sitting at 5 and 8, 5 kills for your designated team feeder, not bad. Not bad at all.
I mean, I'm running out of options here for Empire. I think the next option for them, there's an arrow onto Darkseer, but Universe will be fine, was the BKB coming up onto Tiny. And he was kind of getting on there. He has his Aghanim Scepter, but this is going to just stunt that so much. As Mason goes in, he's just zipping around. I don't know what he's doing, but yeah.
Making me pull my camera all over the place, what he's doing.
Yep.
And finally, Empire respawns. They're not going to be able to bring down the racks, but Empire does lose a tier 3. And, this is, it's one of those things, when you watch this Empire team, we all saw what they're capable of whenever everything is going as planned. And we saw the win streak they got on, how dominant they were for a stretch of weeks. But now it feels like they kind of got the wind knocked out of them. Not just in this match, but kind of in general. I mean, they're still playing good Dota, and they're still winning some matches here and there. But you wonder where that swagger went, that whatever it was that just made them so dominant for that stretch of time.
I think it, honestly, and I haven't watched them that much, but from what I've just seen today, I would have to say it's just kind of lazy drafting. Honestly, not really. Oh, here comes Arteezy going ham yet again with that double damage on him.
Trying to chase him down. Mason, long range jump. There's going to be a demonic purge on the Silent, and that'll probably. Yep, that's that. What do you
Where was I, though?
Yeah, it's like, what is Arteezy? I mean, what do you do to stop him at this point? What options do you have, Trouf?
It's all in retrospect now. I mean, this is why EG just first picks it. And if you actually go back and see what PPD had to say about Ember, he just says, why don't the Eastern teams draft this when this is clearly the most broken hero in Dota?
Yeah.
And right there we saw him first pick it, snap it, and it just seemed like Empire they didn't have a game plan against it. Maybe they just didn't respect the hero as much as I think he needs to be respected. I mean, it's a very good hero.
Aegis still has 3 minutes left on it, and they're once again threatening tier 3s and racks, and they're going to grab Always Wanna Fly. That's a free one. Universe comes in, pops the Shivas. That's going to force the leap. There's going to be Mag with the lasso, dragging it back. Good disruption, though, into a vacuum wall, and Universe even manages to make it away as Mason helps clean house. Ultimate out from PPD. Doesn't matter as Mason finds himself a godlike streak, and EG finds themselves a game to win. In a combined game time of right around an hour, EG gets their Western Challenge campaign underway with a bang, blanking Team Empire and improving their record to 1-0. And, you know, after 2 games, man, I mean, it's the same story. You hate to sound like a broken record or sound boring and all that, but the truth is, I mean, everything just kind of went south in the laning phase, and Empire never really had a chance to recover after that.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I feel bad about constantly talking up EG these games, but honestly, look at their performance. They deserved it. I mean, they really, really handled Empire in these last 2 games, and yeah, it really goes back to not even so much the draft, just thinking about the lanes. Like, what are you logically going to do if they send Lich mid? You can't just think, oh, they're not going to send Lich mid, because that has to be an option. That has to be in the back of your head. And what happens if they do? Oh, we're just screwed. No, that can't happen. You have to have a different game plan around that, and they had nothing. I mean, it needed to be rotations from the Rubik. Like with the draft that they had, if they had to work with something, it needed to be Rubik moving around, and he just didn't do that. But even then, you can't put the game on Always Wanna Fly. It's more difficult than that. It's much more complicated. So I just think it was the lanes, man.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know that I have a whole lot to add to that. I mean, you broke it down as clearly as you could. I mean, when you look at just Mason and Arteezy, by the time all was said and done, they finished up at a combined 25-4, and with both having GPM right around 450 or above. Hell, for Arteezy, it was 550. And actually, Mason had 600, so right around 550 or above. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it's if you could change one thing, and let's say other than that mid lane, I mean, is there something that Empire is lacking in movement, or is it really and truly just because your Tiny got absolutely dominated?
Well, I mean, he was going to get dominated whether he was, I mean, against really any combination with Lich, honestly. So you just have to think that lane aside, they needed to just move a different hero around. Like, but it's very difficult. I really think it goes back to the lanes in the draft. I mean, they needed to have a game plan in their mind. What happens if Lich goes mid? And they didn't think about it. That's what it looks like on paper. Maybe they thought on paper, oh, Wisp Tiny is really good. If Lich gets caught out, bam, he's dead. But they just didn't do that, and it's very difficult to do that against patient players. And PPD is definitely a patient player.
Well, our first series, our last series of the day, actually only one series here today, and that's going to be the case for the next couple of weeks, or excuse me, for the next week. Things kind of pick up in week 2, and we end up having a lot of double up days. But our first series for today and last series for today is in the books. EG once again starts off the Western Challenge with the win as Empire falls to 0-1. I'm your host there in AC Chambers, the voice you've been hearing for the rest of the broadcast on the other side. That's Trouf. And Trouf, my friend, it's been an absolute pleasure. It really and truly has working with you here in our maiden voyage broadcast. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to having the rest of the event to get to spend the time with you casting and getting to know you and all that. So thanks again for being on the broadcast. And before you go, make sure you tell folks where they can find out more about you.
My Twitter is @TroufDota, and my Twitch, although I don't stream too much anymore, I'm trying to change that, is twitch.tv/Trouf. So you can find me there. And thanks again, for having me. It's been a blast.
There you go. Make sure you check him out, TroufDota, and check out his stream and so on and so forth. And hope you guys enjoy the new digs. Like we said, we have kind of dressed up the studio just a little bit, and we'll be using this, obviously, for all of our Western Challenge. Reported is coming up this Thursday as well. It'll be myself and Charlie Yang, also known as Monolith. doing our maiden voyage talk shows. So it's always cool whenever you get to work in a place that has an Aegis sitting right behind you. That's always
there. You go. Yeah.
But once again, make sure you check out Tralf on Twitter, and make sure you can find me on Twitter as well. I'm at AC at AYESEE. Also, I've been getting a lot of tweets about what's on my shirt. This is actually my Admiral Bulldog shirt. If you can see, I'll thumbs up a little bit. Boom. You can find that on Design by Humans. So make sure if you're digging that, you check out Design by Humans. You can find that in all kinds of other really cool designs. There's an awesome one with Ake, where he's kind of got the Puppet Master stance going, and there are blue like lightning and stuff coming out from his fingers, and he's controlling jungle creeps. And really cool Loda one that's kind of I would say street artish, but yeah, just check it out. Designed by Humans. You can get this shirt and a whole lot more. Once again, this has been the D2L Western Challenge. On behalf of myself, Tralf, and of course the whole team here at the D2L, signing off for the day. Enjoy your evening, morning, or afternoon, and enjoy some Dota.